So in the last video that I made, which was a review of episode 10 of Married at First Sight, and we were focusing on Makoto and the traumas that she has gone through that made her show up in her marriage with Nkulego in the way that she did, in a way that is not considered to be feminine and whatever. I spoke about how relevant and necessary feminism is in romantic relationships, or at least should be, especially in the context of South Africa. And I wanted to do a separate video of that outside of the reviews that I've been making about the show. But I came back, so I wasn't in the country. I traveled to Russia, and I've been there for the past 2 weeks, which is why I couldn't really put up anything for you guys. And then I had to catch up over episode 11 and 12 of the show. And wow. The things that happened, particularly with regards to Themba and Nelisa's marriage on the show, truly attest to why that video is necessary, to why we need to think about and talk about and really get to grips with the idea that romantic relationships or marriages, especially in South Africa, should be entered into with the concept of gender equality or the concept of feminism in it. As a woman, be feminist or advocate for your own gender equality as a human, and marry a man who also believes in those ideas. It is so important. The scene with Sponono being invited, she was, okay. We should start by explaining maybe to people that do not watch the show what actually happened. They, all through the season, this particular couple, Themba and Nelisa, have been in what might be called a love bubble, a kind of, honeymoon phase. They've been head over heels in love with each other. They've been seemingly getting exactly what they want from the actual simulation, which is putting people together who've never met each other to get married at the altar and then proceed to, live together and then go through the different challenges and whatever it is that they need to in order to determine whether they want to stay married or not, right? And Nelisa and Themba, out of all the other couples, have been seemingly winning, right, in terms of actually getting out of this with an actual marriage. And we saw the bits of, the drama that Themba might be bringing into the relationship early on in the situation when calls were made to the baby mama in Nelisa's presence, asking her name is Sponono, asking Sponono to, leave them alone now that he's married and blah, 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 blah. And Nelisa being there as a witness to say, this man is willing to call his mother of his children to order for me, and I must be so special, blah, blah, blah. That was the general, and it seems like that sort of dynamic was kind of brewing in the background, but we were not necessarily seeing, right, what was happening exactly in the show. We were just presented with this, okay, they spoke to the baby mama and now they're over it and now they are happily ever after. Nelisa was, happy, giddy, almost like performing her affection and excitement towards this man. And you could see that she's really, really excited to continue in this marriage. Themba, on the other hand, really nonchalant, doesn't say too much, just moving like, a man and, presenting as this protective provider kind of ideal, right? That a lot of South African women seem to think is. So that is what was happening. And so they were happy together and going on as usual. Now, episode 11, production decided to invite Sponono to the show to clarify. And I think also in the background on social media and whatever, there has been, talk about how Sponono actually was this guy's wife. And she comes onto the show. She's there to set the record straight, to say, in actual fact, I wasn't just, calling him because I was jealous or whatever it is of him having a new wife or anything like that. I was actually calling because this man lied, right? This man actually is married to me. He actually paid lobola. Customary things were done, even though they were not done to completion, but he has actually, gone to my family and made his intentions clear, paid some kind of amount in the form of lobola. And so we are married and we've been living together. I think it has been for 11 years. And when he decided that he wants to go into the show, when I found out that he's going to the show through whatever emails and stuff, he said he was just coming here to act, that this would advance his career as a DJ and blah, 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 right? So fast forward, he gets annoyed by the confrontation. He doesn't want to take any accountability. He wants to continue painting the picture of her as the crazy ex who doesn't want to let go, and that he's not going to be party to whatever conversation is happening. And when Nelisa is brought in, he wants to quickly remove Nelisa from the situation as possible, calling her this person, calling Sponono this person is crazy. This person, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this person and entertain this person, and she wants to kill me, and all of this. Right? We start seeing, the cracks, right, in his supposed manliness when he starts calling her names and wants to get out of the situation as soon as possible. And, Nelisa is on there like, what's going on? Why is she here acting all dumb and distressed and, needing her man to hold her hand while the experts actually explain what's going on? And she sits there with her man, clearly determined to stick by him no matter what happens, because the way she's looking at Sponono on some, why are you here? What are you saying? And Sponono is like, I wanted to clarify and I wanted to maybe warn you to say this is the kind of man that you're dealing with, and if you continue with this marriage, might be, you'll suffer the same fate. She seems to think that this woman is still crazy. This woman just wants, back in for herself, and she's going to stand by her man. So I also watched a interview that Sponono did with the podcast is called Engineer Your Life. I can't remember the name of the host, but they do these kind of tell-all interviews with people who have been on Married at First Sight. So I've seen a couple from season 1, and now they've got Sponono on the show, and she was talking about her marriage with Themba and, the entire story, right, of how she got to the point that she got to. And I'm going to reflect on that, as well as obviously what happens on the show, to say that, and I hate to want to have to say this, but in as much as we can blame Themba, and we should blame Themba for what he has done, the mess that he has created, for stringing this woman along this entire time and pretending as if he wants to be with her, all the while knowing that he's getting ready to leave, there has to be a reflection and a serious conversation that we have about a woman going into a marriage ready to be relieved of her individual responsibility to take care of herself and make sure that she, as a person, survives regardless of whether or not a man is in her life or not, right? So the story goes as she relays it, that she came to Joburg, I think it was 2011 when she finished her matric, and she was going to do like training in engineering. She also got like an apprenticeship as an engineer, electrical engineering. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, she was well on her way to establishing her career in Joburg when she met Themba, and they proceeded to have a relationship. Fast forward, got a child, and now needed to raise this child together, right? So she, I think, moved in with Themba, even though he had not married her. She chose to have the child. Again, I'm going to come back to this in terms of why it doesn't have to be a decision that you make for yourself. But anyways, and she had the child, and they stayed together. In eventually, I think in 2016, he paid for the damages, and 2017 went back to start the process of negotiations for lobola. And apparently, he actually paid parts of the lobola. They had a whole family lunch thing to, celebrate or whatever. So essentially, it seems as if there was a customary marriage. And so they lived together all these years, and Themba was supposed to finish the process of lobola, and he just kept on deflecting. And when the host was asking, but why didn't you, advocate for yourself, push the matter, and until he does it, she's like, no, I didn't want him to resent me for, forcing him into a marriage that he didn't want to be in and stuff like that. So anyways, they continue living together up until the last day when Sponono saw the emails. That's what she says. She saw the emails of him entering the show Married at First Sight, and one that was saying, you've been shortlisted, blah, 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 blah. And when she confronted him about it, he was like, no, this is acting. I'm going there to advance my career. What, you know me. I don't cheat, and so I'm going to come back home to you, baby. And she accepted that, and he went onto the show. So she gave up her career and whatever other goals that she had for herself and let this man take care of her, right? And she took care of the children. And again, there's nothing wrong with being a traditional wife, but in this situation, obviously the thing that's supposed to come first came last, or let's say it didn't completely come at all, because now they started with the child and then got the child and then started with the damages for the child and then got to the lobola when they were supposed to start with the lobola, get to the marriage and then get the child and then get to the, so it's reverse, but nonetheless, she stayed in the hopes that, he would eventually finish the whole marriage or lobola processes. She gave that up and then sacrificed herself in her career in the process. All the while, Themba got into the marriage, advanced his career, started businesses, then somewhere along the way decided that he wants to be a DJ, got the equipment to start DJing, proceeded to have another career in DJing. All the while, this woman is next to him, supporting him, taking care of the kids, while he stays out late because of the DJing career, is not home the whole day because he's going to his actual work. They don't get to spend time together anymore. The relationship is breaking down, but his individual goals and career is advancing, right? And to a point where he applies to go on a show where you get to get married to someone for the first time at the altar. And he actually gives this marriage an actual chance. He's actually serious about it. And I'm starting to think that maybe he was also keeping Sponono by his side while he does this, so that if for whatever reason he doesn't actually like whoever he's partnered with, he can always go back to Sponono, right? But he gets there, he meets Nelisa, and it's written in the stars, he loves Nelisa. But he still keeps this woman around in their house that they live in together, to a point that he takes her along when they go on a vacation for the children's birthday. Right? And that was another point of contention in the confrontation, to say, we went on a vacation together as a family. And Themba was like, no, I wasn't taking you on vacation. I was taking the kids on vacation. And then the question is, then what was she doing at the vacation? And he's like, no, I was taking the kids. We didn't even have sex, right? And it's like, but the sex has nothing to do with it. Why are you taking us all together on the vacation? And again, it becomes clear that he wanted to keep this woman around as long as possible so that she continues, right, giving him the privileges of a husband as much as possible until he gets a replacement for her. So what do we learn? We learn that South African men, and majority of South African men, I'm not saying all of them, are socialized into and definitely choose to marry not to lead, provide, and protect, but they marry so that they can gain access and so that they can extract. What do I mean? They want to get access to a woman, and I mean a woman, not a particular woman. A woman, it can be any. Access to a woman, access to a regular pussy, access to her womb, so that they can extract the children, extract the labor from her, and extract the emotional support that they haven't cultivated for themselves. Point blank. This is exactly what Themba has been doing to this woman. He kept her around, he kept her in the picture, he kept stringing her along so that he can continue having access to these things and extracting these things from her, and then all the while advancing himself, advancing his career, bettering himself, so that when he finally meets someone like Nelisa, he knows that he is worthy, or whatever the case is. Then women, on the other hand, are socialized into marrying for financial stability or security, and marrying so that you are finally deemed valuable or worthy because you have been chosen by a man, and also because now you get to give birth to children, nurture those children, and build a home, right? A stable home for your children. And what feminism does is that it empowers women to be able to provide that financial security for themselves. It empowers women to be able to see themselves as valuable beyond their reproductive organs, so that they finally get to decide for themselves and determine what it is that they actually want from a partner, and are able to negotiate and advocate for themselves in a marriage. And the most important thing that feminism gives, or the most important thing that empowerment, right, gives, is a sense that you can always walk away. Because there's nothing that is tying you to this person that without them you wouldn't survive. It's not that men don't understand the concept of feminism and why it's valid. It's that they reject it, right, for the very fact that it's going to take away their power. And let's just go back to just the basic definition of feminism. The idea or belief in the equality of the sexes in social, economic, and political spheres of life. And notice that I didn't say physical, because then they'll come and say, no, then it's 50-50. That means we must both be able to carry a ton of bricks in the same, level of strength and the same level of agility and whatever the case is. No, that's not what I'm saying. So the equality in the social, in the cultural, in the political aspects means that we are going into the relationship already having an equal view of ourselves as partners, knowing that we're going to have equal voices, we are going to be equally heard in the relationships, So it's not about just splitting the bill, right? It's about splitting the emotional labor. It's about showing up as full intellectual and spiritual bodies in the relationship as partners. And so if a woman goes into the relationship knowing that she's a full human and has autonomy over her body, it's easy to not find yourself in situations like the situation that Sponono found herself. You are able to understand the purpose and the meaning of sex, not as some godly act that has been, passed down to us so that we procreate, because the man is an image of God and God took the rib from the man and gave to the woman. And when they engage in sex, they are to multiply and what? No. No. But because it is a natural pleasure and emotional and physical act, right? That gets you as a woman to a point of climax or orgasm, which is a beautiful elevated state of humanness that you get to share with someone else or do by yourself or whatever the case is. And yes, from that can come having children, but also from that can just be about you being sexually pleased. And you are able, if you understand the autonomy and authority that you have on your body, to determine when and how and with whom the sex happens. It's not about having sex with everyone and being promiscuous, contrary to what people might think feminism promotes. It's just about understanding that this thing that you're about to engage with this man is about you and you getting as much pleasure from it. And getting the pleasure will only come when you feel safe. Getting the pleasure will only come when you feel empowered to do it, right? And so doing it unprotected, doing it not knowing if this man is healthy or not, and then not using protection is just not going to be in the cards for you. And so Sponono found herself then in a situation where she's engaging in sexual intercourse with this man. She doesn't know, she's not doing it from a place of her own sexual satisfaction, but I think she was doing it because this is how relationships go. Right? And if he decides or he wants to convince you that you don't need to use a condom, then so be it. Right? So she finds herself pregnant and then decides to keep the baby. And again, autonomy and authority over your own body will tell you that you can terminate the pregnancy if it doesn't work for you, if you're not ready to have children. And unfortunately, a lot of us, or a lot of South African women, think that having a baby with a man is what's going to inspire him to do right by you, is what's going to keep him around, is what's going to strengthen the bond that you guys have together. And nothing could be further from the truth, especially with the history of fatherlessness that we have in this country. As soon as she learned that this man is actually not going to fulfill the lobola negotiations, I think she was more scared of the prospect of leaving the marriage to start afresh by herself than she was afraid of the idea that this man actually didn't love her anymore and might someday leave her. But what feminism does is empowers you, gives you a sense that you can do it, and gives you the ability to be able to walk away. And not just walk away, to be able to ask for what you want, right? So she kept on saying no, she didn't want him to think that she was coercing him into, sorry guys, I have flu, so I have to keep on clearing my throat, and I tried the water, but it's not working. But she's unable to negotiate for herself, to ask for exactly what she wants. She's unable to give this man an ultimatum because, again, she's been taught to stay silent, to sacrifice herself, and not, rock the boat, lest the man runs away and thinks that you want the actual thing that you do want, which is for him to marry you. So it's like, ask for it, right? Ask for it and be willing to walk away if you don't get it. And you are willing to walk away and able to walk away because you have the resources and you have the empowerment within yourself to do it. That is what feminism gives us, right? So unfortunately for Sponono, she couldn't position herself in such a way that she's able to do that. And she stayed with this man beyond the realization that he's never going to marry her. And she kept hoping. I think in as much as she was surprised by how he went about leaving her, I think that she knew that he was about to leave her. And so she's making peace, or has made peace with the fact that he doesn't want her anymore. And she's not going to fight it. I think that she should. I think that they are married, so legally he is obliged to pay her for all this damage that he has caused her. But again, I think because women are taught to just, sit down, stay silent, and not appear to be, some kind of way, I think she's going to let it go. Anyways, that's the submissiveness that they want. The kind that puts you in a position where you cannot speak up for yourself, you cannot advocate for yourself, you cannot do anything for yourself. You're so disempowered that you're willing to take and accept whatever crap they feed you until they are able, or they want to leave and they want to find the next person that they can feed the crap to. This is the submissiveness that they want. And this is why they are so against feminism. And this is why they push back, against this idea that a woman can be independent. Because once a woman is independent, she starts looking for something beyond this superficial financial resource that, they think is the thing that we are coveting. So, third drink, and I need to wrap this video up. I think I've said enough. I think the last point that I want to make has to do with what Nelisa is doing and how Nelisa has reacted to the whole situation. Her form of submissiveness and her form of agreeableness is the worst kind of form that you can find, because it's like sometimes a woman's insecurity, a woman's lack of seeing value in herself, a woman's socialization into believing that securing and keeping a man is the only way to be worthy in society is what keeps us in these situations, and is what continues to give these men the belief, the perspective that they, by themselves, without having to do much, are the prize, right? It's very disturbing the way that she's going on, because yes, at first you can say that, there wasn't really much evidence to speak to the fact that he was actually married. It was still very unclear that, is this just a mother of the children that's mad, or is this bitter ex, or is this wife, right? And the fact that he did the whole phone call earlier on in the season, might have maybe given her a false sense of ease, and something that she should have clocked, she used as an opportunity to justify her staying in the marriage and to say, actually, he loves me because he was able to call this woman out on her behavior, right? And there's something also to be said about a lot of women choosing delusion, choosing to keep themselves oblivious, right, to what's actually happening in front of their faces, ignoring those red flags because they are so focused on the actual result, the end result of being able to call themselves someone else's wife. So by the time you get to the scene where there's a confrontation with Sponono, I think anyone would have expected that she actually wakes up, that she actually is able to call herself back to herself and say, okay, what exactly is going on here? But instead, we see her very hell-bent, adamant to stick by this man and demonstrate to this man that she is willing to support him through all the bullshit that he has done and the bullshit that he is still to do to her. And it just makes these men so comfortable. It makes them so complacent. It makes them so sure of themselves. It makes them so, I think it just confirms, that sense in themselves that any woman would be lucky to have you because you are a king, that whole thing. And it destroys relationships because then the bare minimum seems to be the standard, right? It seems that all you have to do is have a penis, have a little bit of money, a deep voice, maybe a little tall, and you can do whatever else you want to do, and a woman is going to stand by you because there's not so many of you around to go by, and so they are willing to keep you, whatever the cost is. It's very disappointing. I'm very disappointed in Nelisa. And I hope for her sake that this doesn't happen to her. But I doubt that it won't, because no amount of submissiveness or agreeableness, no amount of sex or children is going to make a man loyal to you. So you might as well just be yourself. You might as well just do your thing. You might as well just advocate for yourself as much as you can. You might as well ensure that whatever it is and whoever you are going into a partnership or a marriage is the same person that you will come out of as. And that if it happens that this person leaves you or decides that they're done with you, there's no part of you that they get to take with them. You know what I mean? And the part that Nelisa is seemingly performing, this kind of like giddy, lover girl, always so bubbly, always so soft and feminine, is not her truest self, because she is different when she's interacting with the other women in the show. She does seem to understand when other men in the show are not doing, what husbands should be doing. She does seem to be clear about defending herself. For instance, when she's accused of gossiping about Makoto, she does seem to be an intelligent woman, but she chooses, right, to perform and bring out this part of herself to this man. And you can tell that it's something that she's been taught very well by someone, I think, that is maybe older than her in her family or something, because there's this very clear surety that she has in the way that she is going about this whole baby mama business, and in the way that she is using, her softness and femininity to make sure that she keeps this man around. I hope that it's enough. I hope that it's enough to get him to stay with her forever and not do the same thing that he did to her, Sponono. But for me, I think it's too big a risk. It's too big a gamble to shut down your intelligence, shut down your capabilities as a woman to take care of yourself, to shut down your reasoning skills and capacity for the sake of calling yourself a wife and calling yourself a good wife, right? To a man like Themba, especially. But that's all I have to say about this. And yeah, I think that the last review I'm going to do is about the reunion, and that would be it for Married at First Sight. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.